Hi, I'm Five, and today I'm going to be looking at a VOD from Shadow Slayer. This is the first time I'm reviewing a VOD, so I apologise if it sucks. I'm actually a plat player, so I'm not too far from your elo, but hopefully I can help you. I've watched this video already, and I've got a bunch of things that I want to say about what I think you could be doing differently that could maybe help you and help your team. But first off, I just want to go through some of the questions that you asked on your Reddit, because I forgot to do that the first time I recorded this. So you say you didn't know what your win condition is. Now I'm just going to skip forward to where you press tab and talk about that. So here we can see that you have Ryan and Azaria, Zen, Anna, May, Farah, and you stick with this comp for quite a bit. So what's your win condition in this composition? Well, let's talk about what ultimates you've got. You've got an Earth Shatter, you've got a May Blizzard, which is going to freeze everyone in an area, you've got a Grav, you've got a Transcendence, which is a defensive ult, which heals everyone a lot, and you've got a Nano Boost, and you've got a Barrage. So the win condition here, the strongest team fight winning ult, which is a win condition, is a Grav, and you want to combo that with another ult, or you want to be swinging into that. But this, in combination with either you swinging or your Farah's Barrage or your May's ultimate, that is your win condition. That is how you turn fights in your favor. Not just turn fights in your favor, just win them outright from scratch. But having said that, you don't need to worry about that. This is gold. Like you do not need to think about I see you use words like poke in your Reddit post. Poke, rotations, honestly really doesn't matter in this elo, and I'm not saying that to be mean. I don't think it matters in my elo, which is like plat, high plat, diamond, whatever. In much more organized play, those phrases are relevant. Here, there isn't so much a poke phase, like everyone is constantly wandering into the fight. Yeah, basically you don't need to worry with those terms too much. What you need to focus on more is how you can be an asset to this team. This team of 5 people you've never played with, who've never played with you, don't know what you're thinking, you don't know what they're thinking, and that's fine. You can still win games together. So let's look at this composition. You actually ask in your post, is Ryan a good pick here? And I want to say Ryan is absolutely fantastic in this team, in this lineup, just because you've got a Zarya, and this Zarya is your win condition, as you said, with this Graviton Surge combined with anything else. This Zarya means that you should be Ryan, and you've done that, and that's fantastic. And the reason why that is just because Ryan is such a good asset to a Zarya. Most of the tanks that we have in Overwatch sort of pair off together quite nicely. We have D.Va and Winston. I'm just going to write a W because I don't want to spend ages writing that. And Orisa Hog. And Ryan Zarya, which is what you're on right now. Now, we talk about how they enable each other. Orisa always has a shield and can pull people into Roadhog's hook, while Roadhog doesn't have a shield or anything that really defends the team. It's quite a selfish tank, people call it, but Orisa really provides for the team. It's a very consistent shield. You don't have to worry about the shield running out. You can keep putting them down. It's constantly there. She's such a sort of anchor for a team. Ryan and Zarya sort of work together in a way that you can really control how much damage you can take, and Zarya benefits from people taking controlled amounts of damage. If Zarya has a bubble that she can put on you, she can put on anyone, to either relieve pressure off them or have them move into and take a controlled amount of damage that's going to give her a bunch of charge so that she deals more damage and gets her Graviton Surge faster, which is going to combo with one of your cheaper ults. And when I say cheaper, I mean you have to deal less damage to get them, because Grav for Zarya is quite expensive. It's going to take her a long time to get it, especially in this elo. So yeah, Ryan is absolutely the pick that enables that. And D.Va and Winston sort of complement each other in a bit more complex way, which is where, like, when the Winston jumps, he's quite vulnerable. When Winston works by like jumping into a support backline of the enemy team and creating space that way, and a D.Va can go with him and keep him safe while he sort of bothers the support lineup. But that's not really something you need to worry about. But you have absolutely picked the right class here, just because of this Ryan Zarya synergy. On top of that, you've got an Anna. Now, right here, once I've seen that all these classes have been picked, something I would have said here is, can we get a Mercy for our Farah? Something I notice you do at the end of this game is you say, Zen, can you do something for me? And what I would say not to do is not to give individuals on your team specific small things that you want them to do. You're only going to make people upset, and they're very unlikely to follow your instruction. So what you want to do is talk to your team as a whole, say, can we do something? And here I would be saying, can we get a mercy for our Pharah? Just because this Pharah benefits so much from a mercy, especially on attack. Like, if they have a composition that doesn't really deal with Pharah, they're kind of just stuck. They're miles away from their spawn room. They can't just go back and swap. If they don't have the heroes that deal with this Pharah, she is just going to wreak havoc and win you the first point. So, if you were to give her a mercy, give her the constant healing, the damage boost, the support that provides to this Pharah, and the way that just, how it enables her, is so strong that I would honestly have said in voice chat or in team chat, can we get a mercy for our Pharah? There are actually a bunch of Pharahs that will ask for a mercy in their games. But what I wouldn't say is, Zen, can you go mercy for our Pharah? You just sort of ask the team as a whole. Because any of these players could switch to mercy, and then any of these players could switch to whatever. And if people don't go mercy, that's fine. At least you asked, at least you voiced the idea. But yeah, you're absolutely on the right pick in this scenario. Your DPS, this maze kind of underwhelming, so a lot sort of weighs on your Pharah in this game. But you could honestly not have these two. They could just be doing pretty much nothing, because if you protect your Zarya and your Zarya gets high energy, you can just win the game off that, quite honestly. But yeah, so I would have liked to see this be a mercy, but because she's an Anna, that makes your Rein pick even better, because she has a nano. And as far as like who she's going to put her nano on, Zarya is quite a viable target. In this composition, it's going to be going on you, I'd expect, because a nano on a Rein is really intimidating. You take less damage, you deal more damage, and it just enables you so much, because she can bring you back to full health when you would have died. She can let you swing and do tons more damage, especially in combination with the Grav. So you were talking about win conditions. I said that it combos with Blizzard, or I said it combos with Barrage, or I said it combos with you swinging into a Grav. So in high level games which is sort of built around, where compositions are built around Rein and Zarya as a pairing, Rein will quite often be swinging into the Grav when the Grav is put together and all the team members go into it. But that makes you quite vulnerable, because you're obviously not using your shield if you're using your hammer. So this nano boost can keep you safe whilst you're swinging into all these enemies that the Zarya has piled together. So that's potentially a combo there, and that of course would help you get your Earth Shatter faster. Something you don't do in this game is you don't seem to, when we talk about win conditions in Overwatch, we're almost always talking about ultimates, and you, to me, don't seem too focused on building your ultimate, and that's something that I want to see you try and do more, is just use your fire strikes more loosely. Anyway, we're going to watch the game a bit. Sorry, I sort of ranted a bit there, but I just wanted to talk about a few things before we go into the game, because I have watched it before and I forgot to answer your questions on Reddit last time. So there we go. And he says they have a Pharah and he's wrong, so I'm not sure why he says that. And your Pharah dies to their Junkrat, so at this point you know they have a Junkrat, and honestly that's really good for you, because Zarya benefits from you taking controlled amount of damage, and the rolling Junkrat balls that he shoots are so easy for you to walk into when a Zarya puts her projected bubble on you. And so much of this game should be about how you enable your Zarya, how you get charged for and protect your Zarya. You need to sort of focus on that. You want to be in positions where you can leap into the spam when your Zarya bubbles you. Because quite a few times she bubbles you and you're just not there to take advantage of it. So yeah, you stay at the spawn here, and honestly, your Zarya has the right idea. She's like walking up because she wants to get charged. She wants to take damage on her bubbles and get charged and deal more damage. So she's really set to go and do that, and you should be with her. You should be in front of your team. So I understand that you've lost a player already and you're like, okay, we need to regroup. But that's really not... Later on in the game you also stand here to regroup, and your Anna walks up here and dies, and honestly, standing where your Zarya is right now is quite safe. You can take a very controlled amount of damage standing where your Zarya is. Safe positions in Overwatch aren't positions where you're taking no damage whatsoever. It's positions where you are very confident that you control how much damage you're taking. If you took no damage this game, you'd probably still win, but the issue that presents is that your supports, your healers, have a really difficult time charging their ultimates if no one's taking damage. So if you go and take a small amount of damage quite consistently, your healers can be healing you and building their ultimates faster than if you just sort of stand around over here not taking damage waiting for your Pharah to respawn. Not sure if that is what you're doing. It's the only reason I can think of as to why you stood still here. You should be with your Zarya right now. In general, if you do end up with the Zarya and your Rein in gold, that is fantastic, and if you're ever like, oh, where should I be? Look for your Zarya and stand next to her, stand in front of her, and then try and find a safe position where you can go and be in danger briefly and then come back. That's a good thing to be doing with Zarya, because she's going to be bubbling you and you've got to go and get charged for her. But don't throw your life away to do that. If she bubbles you and you're already at super low health, you haven't got any shield, you're really just kind of thinking, hang on, if I go in here I'm going to die. Don't do it. But this when you're both at very safe health levels and you can take very controlled amounts of damage, you've got to be doing that. So yeah. So here, so I know that I actually saw your previous post on subreddit. I didn't comment on it, but I saw your post about when to use shield, and your shield's being melted. And people said stand in cover. And you're standing in cover there, and your shield is at full health, and your health is at full health. So other reviewers, I would mention, like, I would recommend watching a YouTuber called Jane. Has tons of VOD reviews, and he has ones of Reinhardt. And something he talks about is shield management, right? So if you're at full health and you're at full shield, and you've got supports, everyone's alive, you kind of want to be taking damage, honestly, and you want to take that damage on your main health before your shield. You want to take a bit of damage so that you're just starting to be out of armor, then you hold your shield up and your shield takes the damage. Especially with Zarya, if you're stood here, you can wait for her to put her bubble on you, you move into the spam, you put your shield down, all the damage goes to your bubble, and then as soon as you're taking damage you put your shield up and retreat again. Just to this spot though, and what you achieve there is your bubble takes a bunch of damage, your Zarya gets a bunch of energy, and then she's going to peek this same choke and take a bunch of spam on her bubble, and she can get to like 50 energy from that, from 0, just by taking this controlled amount of spam from the Junkrat, which we know that they have. In gold probably, people say, you know, don't feed the Zarya, don't give the Zarya charge by shooting at her bubbles. But the thing about a Junkrat is he can't take back bombs that he's thrown, and they don't do that much damage, but what they do is provide a Zarya with charge. So all these bombs rolling down here, you can be walking into with a bubble on and getting charged for your Zarya, and that is absolutely what she wants from you, and you're the best candidate on a team to do it because you've got just so much health. If you take just a bit more damage than you were expecting to, doesn't matter. You've got 2,500 effective health. So yeah, you should be with your Zarya in front of your Zarya, in my opinion. So yeah, you walk forward here, and this is good, and your Zarya puts the bubble on the Mei. And that is not ideal, because I don't think they get any charge from this bubble, because the Mei's not really taking damage. Mei definitely didn't need the bubble. Bubble should have gone on you, but you weren't there. You could have been where your Mei was, or just in front of your Zarya, really. So here we see a Junkrat dead ahead of you, and he's being pocketed by a Mercy, and they've got a Diva on a high ground here. Now I know, because I've already watched this video, that they have a Moira, they have a Mercy, they have a Junkrat, they have a Torb, Junk, and tank-wise, they have a Zarya too, like you do, and they have a Diva, which we're seeing right now. So their tank composition is actually a lot worse than yours. Your Rein Zarya duo is super strong, but their Zarya doesn't have a Rein to help them get charged safely. They have a Diva instead. And this Diva is actually a primary candidate for your Zarya to be getting her grab from, because Diva can't defense matrix the beam of a Zarya. If the Diva's in range of the Zarya can just shoot the Diva and get damage towards her ultimate. So I'll just talk about the composition that they're running. So yeah, Zarya Diva, not a lot of synergy here, and just looking at it, we know they're not going to have a shield, ever. The closest thing to a shield that they're going to have here is a Zarya bubble. That's not very durable, not really going to protect their team. So you can stand quite aggressively with your shield right up at a choke, and your team can stand behind you and spam straight onto their literal heroes because they don't have a shield to stop the projectiles. So your Mei, with her primary weapon, can shoot from behind your shield, completely safe, behind 2,500 health. She can just shoot at their team, and it'll go through. So yeah, that's something to think about. So we know that they have Mercy and Moira. So that's quite a lot of healing, the Moira especially, and the Mercy is pocketing the Junkrat and not damage boosting him very often, but it is something to be wary of. But both of those ultimates are pretty underwhelming. So we talked about your win condition, which is Grav, and then pretty much anything else on your team. You're quite well set up to take advantage of Gravitons actually. But yeah, so what could they do against your Grav with a Mercy Moira? Pretty much nothing. Like, their Moira ult is that big beam of healing / damage, so they could try and heal people in a Grav with that. Mercy has Valkyrie, which is not very strong ultimate, and isn't a threat. It's not a defensive ultimate in the way that Transcendence, like your Zen has, or Beat, like a Lucio has, that could actually help a team sustain itself through a Grav. So when you guys get your Graviton Surge, and if you successfully get their team in it, that should just be a one fight for you. So yeah, that's Mercy Moira we talked about, and then they have Junkrat and Torbjorn. And we talked about Junkrat has a very predictable amount of damage. You can just see how much damage you're going to be taking from Junkrat all the time. We can see this mine here, we know we're going to take damage from that, and we can see his little bombs that we're definitely going to take damage from. And that's super useful, because now when your Zarya bubbles you, you can just walk into a consistent amount of damage. That's fantastic. And then they have a Torbjorn, and that again is a very predictable amount of damage because you can see the turret. The turret isn't even behind a shield because they don't have one, so you could just fire strike a turret, honestly. But again, if the Zarya puts a bubble on you and you can't find a Junkrat, they have a turret, so you just walk in front of the turret shoots you, you get charged for your Zarya. So definitely, if you're looking for objectives this game, like what should I be doing? Protect your team, stand in front of your team so that they can shoot at their team because their team doesn't have a shield. There's no shield war going on, there's no race to melt the other person's shields because they just don't have one. So protect your team by standing there as Mr. Rectangle Man, and your team's just going to spam at their team and win. I would expect, especially if your Zarya gets high energy. So yeah, and they have Mercy Moira, and they have D.Va and Zarya. So they have a Grav like you do. That is what you might consider their win condition. The difference here, like when we talk about win conditions, we're talking, and I'm talking about your Grav. I'm talking about your Grav as a win condition because you're on attack, right? And on attack, if you really convincingly win one fight, you're quite likely to walk away with this whole point here. You only have to win one fight to take this point, really. You just have to win it and wipe their team. But for the defenders, they have to keep winning fights over and over and over again. And as soon as they've lost a fight, you start getting progress on this point because they spawn so far away. You have to walk all the way back. Except they do have a Mercy, which is quite strong. First point, they can res people if someone dies. Like, for example, if you kill this Junkrat, their Mercy's just going to res them. So yeah, their Grav, what are they going to combo their Grav with? They're going to combo it with Riptire, the Junkrat ultimate. That could be a team kill for you guys. And they're going to combo it with D.Va's Bomb, maybe. And D.Va's Bomb in particular, you can just completely negate with your shield. So it's good to think about what ultimates the enemy team has and what you can do about them. And the most counterplay for you is to shield against the D.Va Bomb and prevent it from killing anyone. There are ways for you to stop Riptire by shielding it or by fire striking the tire itself. I wouldn't recommend that you try to fire strike it. You can try to shield it, but you're not really at fault if you can't stop it. That's not really something I'd expect of a gold Reinhardt or a plat Reinhardt. So yeah. So here you've walked off to one side while your team's sort of looking at that main archway to the left hand side here, and you're sort of looking at this Junkrat on his own over here. Now the Junkrat most of the time is going to be trying to deal damage to you, like to the tanks on your team. So I wouldn't recommend you go looking for an engagement with a Junkrat, because honestly that's what he wants. He wants a tank to walk into him so he can deal tons of damage and get his Riptire and kill your team. So I wouldn't recommend what you're doing here. Team-wise, like, no one's being shielded by this. Your Zarya has followed you, but otherwise you've just completely abandoned your team, who are over here, who are looking under this archway at the other team. And so now both teams don't have shields, when previously you were the only team with a shield. So what I would have liked to see you do is just stay in our archway, maybe walk forward a bit, and protect your team. So now you've kind of abandoned your team a bit, and you're just taking shield damage for no reason. So here, your team's walked in on the left-hand side, and so you want to be going with them, you want to stand in front of them, and you sort of do that. And the Zarya gives you a bubble, so you do the right thing there and you drop your shield and your Zarya gets some charge. You can see on your Zarya, visibly it shows you how much charge she's got. She's So this looks like about 70 charge, or maybe 50. But you can see she's glowing, and previously she wasn't glowing. You can see she's quite high energy. So when we talk about win conditions, I was talking about ultimates, but honestly, in this elo, a high energy Zarya that doesn't die is just going to win a game by herself. So your priority is protecting your Zarya, keeping your Zarya alive. So I'd like to see you do that. So here, you get trapped, and you put up your shield, and you hit a rip tire. So, like I said, I don't expect you to be able to do anything about that. You could block it with your shield, but I don't expect you to. And it gets 2 of your team members, and that's unfortunate. And so now, what's your priority? Well, we said that your Zarya has high charge. If you die, you're going to respawn, you're going to be a Reinhardt with 2,000 shields and 500 health. But if your Zarya dies, as an 80 charge Zarya, as a 50 charge Zarya, she's going to respawn as a Zarya with 0 charge. So, if one of you two are going to die here, it wants to be you, because you lose so much more if your high charge Zarya dies. So what I would like you to do here is, while you're both retreating, you need to be in front of and shielding your Zarya as she gets out of the fight. So what happens here is your Zarya dies. After you've lost 2 people, we know we're not winning this fight. It's 4v6. So now you're getting out, and you just need to protect your Zarya, so your Zarya definitely gets out. That's what you want here. So your Zarya stays in and dies, and that's really unfortunate. You've got to pay attention to where your Zarya is, and just be with her, protecting her. Because if she's not walking out and she's not surviving, you don't want to be either. If you didn't have a Zarya at all, and you lost 2 lives, and you weren't sure if you were going to survive, I would honestly suggest resetting by killing yourself over here, jumping off the edge, or just outright charging to try and get out alive. But you can't just sort of waddle around like this and just give them lots of ult charge and then die late. But I think you survive. But yeah, your Zarya, you need to protect your Zarya. I would have expected her to take a faster route out, and it's unfortunate that she didn't. But you really want your Zarya to stay alive in this game. Keeping your Zarya alive is just going to win you the game. So here you're shielding against the Mercy. You honestly don't need to do that. We can see that your Ana has respawned and is healing you. You don't need to be scared of a Mercy. You can't stand around this corner obviously, but you could be standing in a bit more aggressive a position. What you do here is you're standing here and you're hoping that your team walks out of spawn and then just stops next to you. And then once you're all together, you can all hold hands and then walk to this corner, and then once you get there, you can all hold hands and walk to this corner. You don't need to do that. It's perfectly safe to stand here, in my opinion, especially now that your healer has respawned. So now what happens is, you back up right practically into your spawn door, and your team just walks off into the fight without you. And so they don't have your 2,000 shields, your 500 health between them and all this spam. So something to think about is, like, what reason is there for you to be stood here while your team is over here? There just isn't one. You've got to be between your team and the enemy team. Right now you've only got 20% ult charge, and their Junkrat's already used a Riptire, and I don't think I've seen you use your Fire Strike once. So over here, when your Zarya is dying, once your Zarya dies and you make it out here, you could have thrown a Fire Strike over to the left here. You could have thrown a Fire Strike quite a lot earlier in the game. There are a lot of times like there's no reason to save your Fire Strike, right? No one's bragging about having an 83% accuracy on their Fire Strikes. No one cares how much accuracy that you have. Just throw Fire Strikes when you have them available. Not all the time, not like if you're definitely not going to hit anything, but if there's a bunch of enemies, or even this Junkrat here, if you just throw a Fire Strike at him and he doesn't move, that's a bunch of ult charge for you, like 7%. And if he does move, then there's always a chance that someone's going to walk into it, especially around corners. If you throw Fire Strikes at corners like this, where people might be in cover and walk out into your Fire Strike, you're going to find that suddenly you're finding your Earth Shatters a lot sooner. You're not doing a lot to help yourself get an Earth Shatter. So yeah, still at 16 charge. Honestly, I feel like you haven't built any ult charge. It's just been ticking up for 24 seconds. So here, your Zarya bubbles you, right? So let's go back. So your Ana heals you a bit,
I don't see.
Your team walks past you, and you're standing in spawn. Your Zarya comes out of spawn. Your Ana dies because you weren't there. This is where you should have been standing, and your Ana kind of is just following this road. Now, Reinhardt benefits a lot from a team, from an organized team, from structure, from a team that just stands behind him, right? And if your team isn't following you around, standing behind you, and we know they're not because you walked across over to this location over here, and only your Zarya came with you. So when your team isn't following you, the best thing to do is just take the most obvious route, right? And on this map, it's really quite straightforward. There's just this road that everyone follows, like your Ana just walked along and died, and you should just stand ahead on that, just in front of your team. Anywhere up until this corner is perfectly fine, because you're not taking too much damage, and this way your more squishy team members, like your Ana only has 200 health and you have 500 and a 2000 shield. Yeah, if you just stand further ahead of your team, you could have taken that damage instead of your Ana. You're playing a bit too passive. So here your Zarya bubbles you, and this is where, you remember when I said, like, when your Zarya bubbles you, you want to be in a position where you can just walk out into spam, into a controlled amount of damage. And here you've been bubbled, because Zarya's like, I should bubble my Reinhardt. And she's right, she should. But she's done that, and you can't do anything with it, because you're not in a position where you can walk into a controlled amount of damage. And had you been over here, you could have walked forward and probably gotten your Zarya a few bits of charge by walking onto those Junkrat mines that we saw your Ana just die to. So your Ana says sorry in chat, and that's fine. I think you should have been there. But she is wrong to just walk in front of her main tank and die to spam, but I think you want to be further ahead than you are. So let's look at their ultimates. Let's look at, you press tab, so we'll look at that. Here we go. Right, so we've just seen Riptire. We all died to it. They probably don't have Grav yet, and we don't need to worry about Valkyrie and Moira ult. You guys have a Transcendence, which is okay. You want to pair this up with their Grav, but like I said, I don't like, players won't like you telling them what to do. So I'm kind of just telling you this in a sort of general sense, but your Zen's probably trying to use his Transcendence when they use their Grav, because that's when your whole team is under the most pressure, and your Ana has Nano. Now, who is a good Nano target on his team? And honestly, you are. I think I said this already, but your Ana wants to Nano you normally here. So you just got to keep that in mind, that your Ana might Nano you. You're not obligated to do anything with a Nano when you get Nanoed. It's just quite likely she's going to put it on you. So try to pay attention to when she has it available. But yeah, we're not looking at too many ults, and they just use their Riptire, so you shouldn't be too worried about that. They do have Diva Bomb. I don't think they will have Diva Bomb eventually. I don't think they have it yet. But yeah, try and pay attention to what ultimates the other team has. Maybe not predicting when they have them, but just remember, hey, they have Diva, so they'll have a Diva Bomb. They have Junkrat, so they'll have a Junkrat tire, and just remember that and be ready to play against it, especially the Diva Bomb, because you can stop that as Reinhardt. So here you walk, your team's taking tons of damage. Well, not taking tons of damage, but your team is stood in a position where they could take tons of damage, and you're not there with them. You've got to be in front of your team. Have more faith in your healers to heal you. I feel like they haven't healed more than 200 health on you just because you haven't been taking the damage. And your healers want to heal. They want their team to take damage, they just don't want their team to die. They don't want you to take uncontrollable amounts of damage that they can't heal and keep up with. But if you take 200 damage and then hold your shield, your healers will love you for that, because they can get a bunch of ult charge, and they can get their shiny gold medal for healing more than the other healer. So that's fine. Anyway, your Mei has successfully walled off a Moira and a Diva, which is great. So you should be swinging your hammer here, and you'll get a bunch of ult charge hopefully. So you do that, that's good. You swing into a Zarya bubble, and that's fine, I guess. You could fire strike here. I don't know if you do. You kind of missed your time to do it now, and it walls down. And so now you're going to be taking a ton of damage because you stepped in a Junkrat trap. So they all know that someone is trapped in a Junkrat trap. So everyone here is going to take a bunch of damage, as we can see from their Junkrat. Diva's frozen, but can't do anything about it. You do fire strike. I'm not sure how much ult charge you got from that, but it's probably huge. Yeah, so this fire strike, right? You go from 36% ult charge to 54 to 60. Because the fire strike will keep hitting people. Like if 6 people stand in a line and you fire strike the first person, you'll hit 6 people with your fire strike. So I forgot already how much ult charge that was, but I think it's at least 23% you just got. So imagine that you'd been throwing out fire strikes, not off cooldown, but when it was like comfortable to do so. You've just got to find comfortable spots where you can just, okay, I can fire strike now, there's no pressure on me, I'm just stood here with a shield, and there are corners like this one over here, like this one over here, that an enemy could come around at any moment and just walk into my fire strike that is sent their way. So try and throw out your fire strikes more often, because a lot of the time there's just no downside to using it. So you're getting closer to your Earth Shatter now, which is good, and your Zarya is again relatively high energy, so you want to keep her alive. That's important. And we know that your Ana has nano, and and you know, and I know that you're about to get nanoed relatively soon. So you're really low health, and we're thinking, oh no, you're going to die. Your Ana's thinking, oh no, he's going to die, I can't heal him fast enough, and she uses her nano on you. So I want us to think about, why did she use the nano? She used the nano because you're low health. It doesn't mean that she put the nano on you because you need to go and kill 15 people. She just put the nano on you to keep you alive. And that's a perfectly valid use of nano. It charges really fast, and you're alive now. The team hasn't lost anyone. So this is great. Your Ana's done really well, and we know that she's right here behind you. We know that other people are right here behind you. So what I don't want to see you do is go and sort of wander off into their team because you've been nanoed. I get that when someone nanos you and you know that you're going to do more damage and take less damage, that you want to go and frag out, go and kill everyone. But what happens when you do this is you just completely neglected your team that was stood behind you, and they all die. So now you are 4 members down of your team. It's just you and a Pharah now. And yes, you've been nanoed, but you've just completely abandoned your team. So you lose this fight after committing an ultimate to it. Now they did use their Moira ultimate, so that's good, because they committed an ultimate to a fight that they've now won just because you sort of left the team. So yeah, this isn't what you should have done here, and I think this is one of the first major mistakes that you could really, that aren't a playstyle decision. This is just you making a wrong decision in the moment. A playstyle decision that you consistently make wrong is just being too passive. You want to be stood in front of your team, and against this team that has no shield, your team having a shield is a crushing advantage. Especially your Mei, who shoots icicles that can deal headshot damage. If your Mei stands behind you and you've got a shield between your team and their team, your Mei can just shoot their team's heads for free, or just shoot their team's bodies for free, but shoot something for free. And she'll get her ult faster. She might even get a pick in combination with your Pharah, and you can start taking 6v5, 6v4s, 6v3s, favourable fights for you. They're going to take a lot longer to get back, and that's honestly how you win, how you take this point. You don't necessarily need to use ultimates, but we've used an ultimate here, and you make the wrong decision of trying to engage with someone, swinging your hammer, when your team is still quite vulnerable behind you. So just something to keep in mind. Just because someone nanos you doesn't mean that you have to go and validate that by killing people. She nanoed you to keep you alive, and she's done that, and that's fantastic. So yeah, this is good nano, and she's already happy with this nano. You've got to know that. She hasn't nanoed you and gone, well, he hasn't done anything with that. That was a waste. What a bad Ryan. She's thinking, I've nanoed him and he stayed alive. That's good. So yeah, and you're trying to cap the point. And I think this is your Zarya on the point, not the place she wants to be. I'm not even sure how she got there. Might be a Pharah, but yeah, she's dead now, and your team, as we said, dies just because you've left them behind. You're saying something, and I don't know what you say, but yeah. Oh, and so here you're quite close to Earth Shatter. Now, I don't want you to use Shatter here. You don't have it anyway. But when your team dies like this, you lose a bunch of your team. You know you're not winning this fight, right? So what's the most valuable thing you can do for your team right now? Honestly, it's dying. Because if you die 10 seconds from now, they're all going to have to wait 10 seconds longer for you to spawn than if you were to die right now, right? Because what you want from your team, if you think about it, you know you're going to die here. I don't see you making it out alive. They're all looking at you. What you want your team to do is spawn and wait for you, right? So what you've got to do is die faster. And the way to die faster is present a threat. If you swing your hammer, they're going to kill you because they don't want to take damage. They don't want to give you ult charge. The worst thing you can be doing is what you're doing right now, which is holding your shield. You're just prolonging how long it takes for you to die when you need to be dying now to reset, as we call it, right? So yeah, and so the reason why that is because just because it's a 6v6 game, you want to be taking 6v6 fights. Yeah, not a fan of using a shield when you're definitely going to die. Just swing your hammer. Swing your hammer, get that Earth Shatter online, and come back to next fight with an Earth Shatter. And maybe turn some heads with it. So yeah, definitely died a lot later than you could have done. And as we can see, you could have been more in line with your Zen who's spawning now. Your Pharah does die quite recently though, so you kind of doesn't matter now because your Pharah died. But yeah, just something to think about. If you're not going to win the fight, just try and deal damage and die and reset so that you can win in the next fight. Don't just sort of try and stay alive, even though you're not winning the whole fight, because it's just worthless. So yeah, so we still have Transcendence, which is good. And we're coming up on Grav and Mayult, so this is the combo. This is what's going to win you a team fight, except it won't because your May's going to use her ult before the Grav. But this combo is what we'd call a win condition, which is what you asked about. But honestly, this Grav and your Ana nading it so that the people in it can't be healed is a win condition. This Grav and you swinging in it with your hammer is a win condition. There are lots of ways to win fights, and all you've got to do to win this point is just win one fight convincingly. Just kill everyone once and you've got this whole point, quite honestly, because the distance from the enemy spawn to the point is so long that they're going to trickle in and die, and you're going to take the point. So yeah, so you're dead now. We'll wait for you to spawn, your team will wait for you to spawn hopefully, and you can take the next fight. But yeah, coming up on Earth Shatter, so that's good, and coming up on Grav. So we're getting close to the point where you can really make a good argument for winning a fight. So your Mei uses her ult here, which is really unfortunate. She didn't catch anyone in it, and if we'd saved this for Grav, we might have had more success with this game. So here's we hear a Riptire, and we could have sort of expected that they'd have a Riptire. They got the first one awfully quickly, and he's been spamming. He hasn't changed class, so we know that they have another Riptire soon. So what can we do about that? Honestly, not a lot. I wouldn't recommend trying to fire strike it. You could just try and shield your team from it. That's about it. But you now know that it's quite likely a bunch of your team is going to die, so rather than go and wander around and die a lot later than your team, you kind of just want to reset and be getting out. Either die quickly while doing a bunch of damage, or just get out, like just leave and go back to the safe position of that corner, maybe a bit further back while your team spawns. So here you miss a fire strike, but it's good that you shot one there. You're doing a bunch of damage, which is great. Hopefully you don't use your Earth Shatter. Oh, and your Zen uses Transcendence here to save you, which is not a good use of Transcendence. So a bit of blunders here with your team wasting Mayult and wasting Transcendence, but I don't want to focus on what your team does wrong, because every game in Gold, everyone's going to make mistakes, and that includes you, and that includes your enemy team. So if you can just focus on yourself, if you're the one teammate in these games that doesn't make mistakes, you will win. If you're on average making less mistakes than the players in Gold, you will climb out of Gold. So don't focus on what your team does wrong, because you're just going to get upset about it, and just try and focus on how you can improve. So they use Grav here on you alone, which is fantastic. You didn't really group up with your team before this, although you go in front of your Mei. So this is honestly fine from you, but I would have liked both you and your Mei to group up a bit better. You've already lost your Zarya somehow, and they use Grav on you, and this is fantastic because you've already lost this fight. So now their big scary ult that they hadn't used yet, it's been used, and they didn't even need to use it.
Alright, let's try this again.
He says, let's try this again, and he's right. So now they don't have a Grav, they don't have a Riptire, they might have a Diva Bomb, they might have Molten Core thing, the Tourbillon ult. So your Zen here again, you need to be in front of your Mercy as soon as you can. This is good, this was good. Yeah, you recognise that you can stand safely by this corner and not take damage, but as soon as you walk in front of that corner and you're going to be taking damage. So that's what you need to be thinking about more. You need to be standing here more, because you're fine here, but when you walk here you'll take damage, and that's what your Zarya wants, is a position like this. If you stand in a position like this and your Zarya bubbles you, you can walk straight here, get a bunch of charge for your Zarya, and walk back, and your Zarya can do the same thing, except when she walks forward, after her bubble's gone, you can then walk in front of her with the shield, and she doesn't have to worry about taking too much damage and dying. So yeah, keeping your Zarya alive, really important. We're a bit unlucky in that she's playing quite on her own. I'd quite like for you to pay more attention to where your team is, turning around a bit. I know when you're holding a shield, it's difficult to look behind you, but you don't have to hold a shield 24/7 in front of your team, and you're not doing that anyway. You just need to look around more often to see where your team is. Definitely pay attention to where your Zarya is and try to be with her. Because your Pharah's in the sky, right? Your Mei has that ice block to stay alive and a nice wall. Your Anna and your Zen are probably going to be looking at you, so we can kind of expect them to be behind you, which is why when you walked off after being nanoed, we could have expected that your Anna was going to die, because we knew she was behind you. She's healing you the whole time. So the person that you need to be coordinating your position with the most doesn't need to be communicated verbally. You can just sort of follow your Zarya around and try and be in front of them. We kind of know where everyone's going to go on this map, like I said. We're just going to go along this road towards this point. And if you stand in front of your Zarya over here, I know there's two routes that you could go in, but if you stand in front of your Zarya and walk this way, the Zarya is going to follow you. The same with the other direction. Yeah, and if she doesn't, then that's her fault, and she'll work out that she should follow you. So this is good, like I said. You don't get bubbled. So you walk forward here. So you're shielding damage, but you're not shielding the whole choke. You're playing this corner, I don't know, like this section, this opening, is pretty much the same size as your shield, so you can cover the whole thing if you're going to shield. And your Zarya walks up here and gets a bunch of charge, so it's actually good for you. Oh no, she doesn't. She's a bit late with her bubble. You get bubbled here, and it goes down, and you hit a massive shatter. This is fantastic. And it looks like you're killing the whole team, but your Pharah just messes up her barrage a bit and doesn't hit everyone with it. And then the bomb happens, and then everyone's dead. Well, just you and your tank are dead. You and your Zarya die there. So what happens there? This is honestly a very good shatter. Really good shatter. We saw that the Zarya used her bubble here, so she doesn't have a bubble on cooldown, and then she uses her bubble on a D.Va, so that the D.Va doesn't have the bubble. So now you know, against this competition that has no shields and no bubble cooldowns, your shatter is not going to be stopped by anything but line of sight. And so you see the whole team, you shatter the whole team, and that is fantastic. This is really good. This is the best ultimate used by your team. And then what happens is your Pharah just misses her barrage, which is unfortunate. Because she needed to be further around this corner. And then what happens is your Zarya grabs, and a D.Va bomb comes out, and the Zarya dies to the D.Va bomb. And this is just kind of unlucky, because that grab, like we said, was your win condition. But what happened there was you hit such a good shatter that alone was enough to win the fight, in combination with the Pharah barrage. And so when those two don't win the fight, at that point you should be thinking about resetting. You don't want to then commit more stuff to the fight, in my opinion. I just think this grab was really poor, because no one was there to follow up on it. At least you weren't in range to swing on it, I guess. Because you're dealing with a D.Va bomb, right? I guess the Zarya could have thought, like, my Rhine will swing into this and grabbed before the D.Va bomb came out, but it's still quite an awkward grab for you to do anything with. So this isn't your fault for not swinging into this, and you try and go swing into this now, and that's good. But the Molten Core has already come out. All this is doing is getting you to your next ultimate. So I hope that's kind of what your thought is here. Because yeah, the next time you get shatter, if you hit another shatter like that, we'll be taking this point, so that's good. Do you try and do that? You die, and that's good. You died quickly. That's good. Your Mercy dies. Because we had a Mercy for our Pharah now, did we? Which is good. And we've got a McCree. So your McCree's quite close to ultimate. If we just go look at that. Here. I like that you press tab when you spawn, it's good. So you can see the Mercy's coming back soon. She has Valkyrie soon. It's kind of a worthless ultimate. And we used trance. We remember when we used trance, it was when you walked off to the left. We've got another trance soon. We're not going to find Grav again this attack. So now, 40 seconds left, we're not getting Grav, we're probably not going to get Barrage. Valkyrie doesn't mean much. We might get Transcendence. I feel like this Zen is going to trance onto point at some point in overtime or something. But this High Noon is kind of the only way that you can win this attack now. So you need to protect your McCree, and if you stand with your shield in front of this McCree against this composition that doesn't have shields, then your McCree can shoot heads for free and get his ultimate faster, and you can protect your McCree when he's using his ultimate. So that's what you want to be thinking about here, is how can I help my McCree get his ultimate faster and win us this attack, and how can I sort of protect him when he's ulting. So yeah. I feel like at the start of the game you were deliberately stopping around cover, not this cover actually, you were stopping around much closer to spawn, and I feel like you yourself are just sort of realizing that it's not working out standing behind a cover all the time. It is just too passive. You're sort of falling into the right idea more here with how you're using your shield. That Earth Shatter was fantastic. This is a lot better, honestly. I might just suggest like playing quick play as Ryan before you play competitive as Ryan, just to sort of warm up for it, and if it helps you with confidence or something, because you need to play a bit more confidently, and don't be so scared of your shield melting, because how many times has your shield broken this game? It hasn't. So yeah. So you can see a damage boosted Moira, and you've walked quite far out now, and I don't know if your team's with you. So here you pan behind yourself, which is good, and we can see that your team's not with you yet. Your team wants to be like here before you start walking further forward. But you've got the right idea in that the time's running out, so you need to go to point, obviously. The way that most people go to point here would probably be this way, but you can go this way. I might be wrong there. But yeah, definitely you just need to let your team catch up a bit, because if worst comes to worst, your Zen's probably going to ult to get to point, and your Pharah's going to drop on it from above. It's not your responsibility to run ahead of your team and touch the point. Just let your team catch up a bit. Being healed by the Mercy, you got Harmony on you, you got tons of healing, so you can swing your hammer. You find the trap, that's good. Zarya no personal, so Zarya used her bubble. You're starting to take a bit of damage here, and you walk into a Junkrat, and he uses Tire and kills you. Okay. So you're out of this fight. Mercy goes to res you in front of a Junkrat, that's unfortunate. And you're all dead and you lose the attack. It's unfortunate. But yeah, I think what you needed to do, like, it's unfortunately like your team, we talked about win conditions, and your team got, and it was those ultimates, comboing those ultimates, and your team just sort of didn't manage that. But we could have been standing in front of your Mei and your McCree to let them fire for free at the enemy heads, because they don't have shields. They're going to do lots more damage, and we need to be more of an asset for Zarya. Zarya wasn't getting nice bubbles on us, like we'd be bubbled and we weren't in line of sight of the enemy spam. We were just too far passive. You've got to really play tight together with your Zarya, and be ready to sort of jump into spam and then jump back when your Zarya puts the bubble on you. So yeah. Also, like, honestly, that when you got nanoed and just walked off, that was quite expensive for your team on that attack. So if you're looking for mistakes that you made, if you're just looking for mistakes that you made here, it's when definitely the big one is being too passive and just walking off after being nanoed when your team's behind you. That nano, if you just stood still holding shield, that would have been a lot better than trying to go frag with it. So that's round one. We're going to go see what we do compositionally on defense. So here you type to your Zen. I really don't like that you do this. I like this line that says we need to focus the Junkrat, because you're talking to the team as a whole. But when you single out just a Zen and say, hey Zen, do this differently, you're not likely to get the result you want from it, and you're quite likely to hurt this Zen's feelings, his confidence, something. He's just not going to appreciate that. You don't need to fix all of your team's mistakes to win this game. You just need to make less mistakes yourself. Even if that didn't win this game, like if you hadn't played too passive, if you'd been that good anchor for your Zarya, and got her lots of energy, you got that great shatter. That shatter was fantastic. You do all these things and you don't make mistakes, and you still lose. That's honestly fine, because I reckon your win rate would still be really high. You'd win the next game or the game after, because all the players in this elo are like your Zen. All the players in this elo are like your Zarya. They're just making a few mistakes that sometimes cost the game, and so are you. And if you stop making those mistakes, then suddenly you're the best teammate in this elo, and you'll be cruising out of it into plat. So yeah, just something to think about. Don't try and find reasons why you lost because by looking at your other teammates. Just try and focus on yourself. Simplify the game for yourself. You don't need to think about things like poke. You don't think about rotations. Just think, how can I be the most useful thing for my Zarya? Or like just pick one person on your team that you're going to work with and enable. Like imagine if you came to this game and this Zarya like looked to you and was like, okay, this guy, I'm going to enable this guy. Whenever this guy tries to do something, I'm going to be right behind him. Whenever this guy tries to swing his hammer, I'm going to bubble him so he doesn't take damage or something. You know, like if your Zarya was just glued to you like a rock, not like a rock, but glued to you anyway, you would appreciate that. It would be fantastic and you would probably win. It just takes two people working together in a silo to win a game, and we're not really doing that. If you're struggling to work out what your like objectives for yourself, but you're also trying to work out what your individual members of your team are doing wrong, you're sort of overloading yourself with problems to solve when you can just look to yourself and just look to one teammate to sort of help, and you'll probably find it a lot simpler. So you asked in your Reddit posts whether Rein was the right pick, and on offense, when you had that Zarya, when you had that Anna, it absolutely was. It was a fantastic pick, and that Earthshatter almost won the game. Almost won that offense. Your Pharah was just a bit unlucky with how they press Q. Same for your Zarya. But now you've got a Roadhog, and you're going to have a Torbjorn here. And when you've got a Roadhog and a Torbjorn, I really like Orisa on defense first point on this map. And the reason that is because you've continually got shield, and you made your Reddit post like people are burning through my shield. I don't know what to do about it. Orisa always has a shield, and if they're out damaging the shield, that's fair enough. But this shield is a lot easier for your team to understand because it's not going to suddenly disappear and walk off. Like if you hold your shield and then suddenly you put it down, your team can't predict that. But this shield, they can visibly see it breaking. They know it's going to be there. And when you have a Torbjorn, you can shield his turret, and your pull, your halt, works in combination really well with your Roadhog, who can just hook whatever you halt and pull together. So these two picks, we're going to see a Torbjorn here, make me think that had you gone Orisa, it might have held for longer, but at this point I don't expect you to win this game because normally like defending the first point, the defenders are at a huge disadvantage because the spawn is so far away. It's expected that a team would take first point and then push it to payload a bit, and then they get knocked off the payload, and the next team push and try and push the payload further. But what's happened here is that we've failed to take the first point. So you can only draw at this point. I don't think anything you do here would help you come out with a draw, really. I think we just messed up that attack a bit. But yeah, but if you think about expanding your hero pool, honestly, Rein is a really good main to have in this elo because every single game people are like, can we get a Rein? No one wants to play Rein. If you stick to Rein and get good at it, you're going to fly out of this elo. You're going to be in plat by no time. So this is good. You can stick to Rein here. It's honestly fine. But just seeing this Roadhog and this Torbjorn makes me think Orisa would be really strong. And if you can expand your hero pool and learn to play on Orisa on the maps like Ilios Well and Nepal Sanctum, and if you could learn to play Orisa in addition to Rein, I think you'd benefit from it. Anyway, so yeah, you play Rein and your team plays this Hog, Torbjorn, Symmetra, Zen, something. And we might be seeing a bit of a tilt pick here with your Hog, but honestly this isn't too bad, especially if you had an Orisa. So you could, but yeah, but I think everyone on this team, including you, knows that you're not going to win this now. You're not going to draw this even. So yeah, just going to cut to where you'll start defending. So if you'd gone Orisa, it's quite common for a shield to go around here, like this, and people find Orisa shields a lot easier to work with, but it's quite common for a Torbjorn turret to be sort of just off screen to my left, and you could shield that. But yeah, so as it is, you're sort of stood in the right position, I think, as Ryan. You want to stand. So this is the thing Reddit means with the corners and playing near cover. When you talk about my shield being melted and being in trouble, if you stand here, when your shield takes a bunch of damage, shield takes a bunch of damage, and your shield's running out, The concern is that then you're going to die after the shield runs out. So what you do is you play by this wall, and when your team isn't trying to achieve things by being behind your shield, and when your shield's low, you can duck behind this wall and no longer take any damage to recharge your shield. That's all we mean. But when people you don't need to be playing cover when you've got 2000 shield. But there's not much point also holding your shield here if all your team is over here doing something else. When you're using your shield, you want to be trading it for something. You want to be trading it for a positional advantage if you're attacking, or if you're defending, you want to be trading it for the protection of not letting your teammates be damaged behind it, so that they have the ability to shoot through the shield at the attackers. So yeah, and right now I would expect that your team is behind you and will shoot through the shield at the attackers. So there's this good reason to be standing here with your shield. So we'll just skip to when the game starts. And yeah. So another thing is that support-wise, you've got a Moira in the end, and a Mercy here, like they had, is a big factor in holding a first point with a spawn that's a long way away. Like your spawn, you just walked from your spawn, and it's quite a way to get here. And so you can imagine that when a player dies, it's going to take them a long time to get back. So your opponents were playing Mercy on this point, and it meant that when someone died, they could just res them on the spot, and suddenly they have 6 players again. And it's so strong defending the first point, and that might be a big reason why you lost this. Not this defense, but why you lost the attack. So on attack, rather than when you said to discord the Junkrat's just going to get res by the Mercy. The real issue, the real priority I would expect is killing the Mercy if you can. Not you personally, but like you shield the Mei and the Mei shoots at the Mercy because it didn't have a shield, or the Pharah shoots at the Mercy. Just try and kill the Mercy, and then you can kill other players, and it's a 4v6. So they've got Orisa Zarya, which is not a good tank combo, but they're gonna manage to take the point anyway. Their Zarya gets to quite high energy and just mows everyone down, and you lose your Torbjorn. So here you kind of just wandered off. What are you doing here, would you say? So you're taking damage, and you sort of back off. See, you've still got 1500 shield right now. Your team is right next to you taking damage. Your shield drops to 1000. And so what people recommend doing is staying right where you are pretty much. In this cover here, or just in front of this cover here, is fine. But you end up walking over. And I don't know if this is your attention wandering. You forgot like that you wanted to stand and recharge your shield. Also, when you're doing this thing where... Hang on. When you momentarily bring up your shield like this, what you're doing is you're stopping the rate. You're resetting how fast your shield recharges to 0. So if you just didn't shield anyway, if you didn't shield at all there, then you would have full shield recharge by now. So try not to do that. When you're ducking behind cover to recharge your shield, a lot of Rhines like to just swing their hammer. Definitely just try and avoid flashing your shield when it's recharging, because you're just hurting yourself. But yeah, I'm not sure why you've come across here when your team is over here fighting these guys. Because your shield's recharged now. You could be over here being Mr. Rectangle Man for your team, which is still alive. So yeah, I'm not sure what wandering over here is doing for you, because I don't think you should be looking for flank plays, especially not without an Earth Shatter. Again, we've not seen you use your Fire Strike. You've got to use your Fire Strike. Get some ult charge. So yeah, you're kind of just looking at people over here, and then your team dies over here. Your Torbjorn. So you're 1 down, you don't have a Mercy to res it. Here you use a Fire Strike, and that's good. How much ult charge did we get here? You're on 18%, 20%. So we get 24% ult charge here from that Fire Strike, which is fantastic. They halt you, they spam your shield a bit, there's a Junkrat trap in front of you, is there? And you back up to point. This is all good. You lose your Roadhog because he was out of position, and your Zen just sort of stands in front of people, and you do the right thing of trying to be in front of him. and now you get booped in and moved around, and you charge the rest. So this is a good pin, but you've got to get back to being with your team. So your team dies a bit after you charge there. I don't quite understand what threw you in the air. Might have been the Junkrat. Yeah, so the Junkrat boops you, and then you're out of position. That's unfortunate. So you charge to be back with your team, but you're just not back in time. This is just kind of unfortunate. It's just the nature of defending. When one person dies, it gets very messy because the attackers have such an advantage. Shielding here is kind of fine. You get the shatter, right, so here, when you shatter this, you obviously shatter more people doing this. They use beat though. But I would say your main threat, holding this point, your objective is, don't lose. Don't let them get this far. And the scariest thing about their team to me right now is they have a high energy Zarya. So killing the high energy Zarya is a priority, otherwise it just sort of course it alone can just win them this point. So I personally might have shattered their Zarya because I know that they don't have a bubble, or maybe they do have a bubble. This shatter might be fine, but just something to think about is trying to kill their Zarya. They beat, you die, and they take the point, and that's fine because you're not supposed to hold this point forever, otherwise there wouldn't be the rest of the map. You just sort of messed up your attack a bit. So the things to think about is you're playing very passively, and especially when you're paired with a Zarya, you've got to try and be more of an asset to your Zarya. Try and get your Zarya charged, try and protect your Zarya, try and let your Zarya enable you. But you're a bit too inactive. You try and be more proactive, and then when you start to be punished for it, take advantage of that massive shield pull, that massive health pull that you have, and sort of retreat back and let yourself be healed. You're a bit too scared of taking any damage whatsoever when you've got 2,500 effective health. So try and remember that you're this big German man in a huge suit, and just be a bit less scared of things. And when you've definitely lost a team fight, you lose tons of members, try and reset, try and die as soon as possible, and the way to make sure that they kill you as fast as possible is just present a threat. Swing your hammer around, throw fire strikes, try and get some ult charge, and they'll kill you sooner, you'll respawn sooner, and you'll be able to fight as a team sooner. That's really important. The thing that really cost you in this game, in my opinion, is when you just walked off after being nanoed. You don't need to do that, and the Ana isn't going to be upset that you didn't kill their team after she nanoed you. Remember that you were really low health, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to die, you get nanoed. That's fantastic, that's a great use of nano already. You don't need to then go and turn it into this super usage of nano that's better than a grav, where you go and kill their entire team after being nanoed. Like, that nano was a mega health pack and it served its use and it was fantastic, and then you just sort of left your team. So just try and stabilize after that. You'd been trapped, you took a ton of spam, Ana nanoed you, you're now taking less damage, just sort of stabilize, hold your shield, let your team regather itself a bit. So it's all I can think of there. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope it wasn't too harsh. I really did just sort of speak my mind. I'm not a super high rated player or anything, but I hope this was helpful, and I'll happily look at other videos of yours if you want to send me some. And sorry it was so long. It's my first time talking over stuff, so yep. But yeah, thanks for giving me a video, or giving us a video, and I hope it was useful.